While many of his classmates may have had an issue with waking up at 5 and immediately getting to work, but not Sato, he was always an early riser, often using his mornings to work out. Although now he doubted he had time for that. After all, he had a lot of food to make. Alright. Sato stood in the kitchen, looking at his helpers. Azui and Aoyama were of course here as they were both assigned to help. Inko was also present, as Izuku said she would be. Some kids had also come. Fu and Sanson felt like helping, and since they never had to sleep, they didn't have a problem waking up so early. Yanda and Yami had been helping out the whole time anyway. Yanda out of a sense of wanting to be useful, and Yami for the same reason, and also because he wanted to learn how to cook. Nara was also present, as she felt a sense of responsibility, although her brother was nowhere to be found. Fuku didn't join them as she no longer felt it was as necessary as before. Alright. So today we're gonna be making tamago cake gohan, with some vegetable toppings. Sato declared. Yami, can you take care of giving Kai his food? The frightful child nodded and left to go order his groom to airdrop Kai's food to him. Fu, can you get your food from the fridge? Sato asked the zombie boy. Yes, we can. Cold doesn't affect us much. Fu said, before walking towards the fridge. Right, Sanson, your body can stretch around the whole kitchen so you stay on standby and get us what we ask for, Sato told the slime girl, as she gave him a big cartoon thumbs up. I can also be in multiple places at once. Nara turned to her Omnitrix and selected an alien. And then, after a flash of pink light, she transformed into Ditto. Watch. Nara's body then seemingly split in two, creating a duplicate of herself. That's great. How many clones can you make? Sato asked her. 20, Nara answered, her voice cartoonishly high-pitched. I can only do this for 10 minutes though. That should be all we need, Sato said. 15 of you can go set up the tables and deliver the meals, and you can keep 5 clones here to help cook. On it. Nara nodded. Everyone else, get ready to cook. Sato shouted as he raised his fist into the air. Yes, Chief! Cried everyone. XXXXXXXXXXXX. MMMH. Man, this is good, Kaminari said, as he and many of his other classmates, as well as the children, just destroyed their meals. Yee. Fifth Grawat. Mina said with a mouthful of food. Ashido, do not talk with your mouth full, Ida scolded. But you are correct. You all did an excellent job with the cooking. Yes, Sato, nice job. Achiko praised the muscle-bound cook as she ate. Don't give me all the praise, everyone did their part. Sato looked to his helpers. You all did amazing. Couldn't have made as much food without you guys. I'm used to making food for my siblings already, so I'm kinda used to having to do things like this, although this was obviously on a much bigger scale, Sue said. Moi. Obviously, I am able to cook. Aoyama said, flamboyant. Myself in the kitchen is a dazzling sight to see. Man, you are like a living stereotype, huh? Ciro asked the Frenchman. It was fun, Yanda said while she had a mouthful of food. Pretty much everyone was satisfied, except for 2. Ken and Kiba, neither of whom liked vegetables all that much. Ugh. Ken groaned as he looked at his food, before his sister who was sitting next to him, kicked him in the leg. Ow. Don't be rude. People worked hard to make this. Nara aggressively whispered to him while giving him a fierce glare. And they're good for you. They don't taste like it. Ken grimaced. Kiba didn't complain, she just made a very sour face as she scarfed down her food as fast as possible to get it over with. She may not like it, but she didn't want to be a bother. Hey, where's Kyoko? Kei asked. She went to go eat with your father, dear. Inko smiled. She said she didn't want him to be alone. Kei gasped. That's a great idea. Mr. Sato, can we take our food and eat with Daddy? You don't have to ask me. I just make the food, you can eat wherever you want. Sato told them. With an eager grin, Kei lifted her bowl and ran out to go to Izuku, with Eri deciding to follow her. Fu looked at Kiba, who looked like she wanted to join them but didn't. Kiba, what the heck is going on with you? Fu thought. XXXXXXXXXXXX. Hey, Dad. Achiko was currently in Izuku's office, looking over some reports. Oh hey honey, what's going on? Her father asked, slightly concerned. I've called you at least a dozen times, but you ain't been answering? You haven't heard? Achiko cringed. Izuku collapsed. What? Achiko had to move away from the phone. It's okay. She quickly reassured him. He's not gonna die or anything but he's just really weak right now. She heard her father breathe a sigh of relief. Thank goodness. What on earth brought that boy down? Overwork, Ochako answered. Oh, yeah, that'll do it. Her father said. That boy has a heart of gold, but the human body can only take so much charity. And Lord knows the world doesn't make being kind an easy thing to do. And he never knows when to stop. Ochako sighed soundly, slightly agitated. And how do you feel about that? Her father asked. I feel frustrated. Ochako vented. Pretty much everyone he met treated him like crap. And then it finally seems like he gets to have the life he deserves, and he just sabotages himself. And I'm just so angry. He's such a wonderful person and he cares for everyone. Everyone but himself. He thinks of the people that bully him more than himself. And that's just, Ochiko's head slammed into the desk as she took a moment to just let her frustrations seep out. So he's that type, huh? Her father said. Listen, Ochako, Midoriya has what they call the bleeding heart. It pours and pours for everyone else, but eventually, he'll be left with nothing for himself. Listen, honey, you can't leave people like him alone for too long. They'll end up killing themselves one way or another eventually. Don't say that. Ochako shouted. That thought sent shivers down her spine. The thought that Izuku cared for himself so little that no matter what happened, if you left him alone for too long. It's the truth, dear. A man who holds no love for himself can't stand on his own. Ochiko's father said. He needs people to teach him how to care for himself, dear. And I know those kids love him a whole bunch, but a lot of them need just as much help as he does. And I don't even know where his parents are. His mom's here, Ochako told him. But she can only be here for so long. She has a company to deal with overseas. You know, financial security is important. Sure do. Her father said. But that leaves Midoriya with no one who can stop him from running himself into the ground. No one but you. Dad, you know I have to focus on my studies. Ochako reminded him gloomily. I'm not saying monitor his every move, I'm just saying you should pop by every now and again. He's not the kind of guy to ask for help, so you may have to force it down his throat a bit. Her father explained. Just remind him that he better look after himself, otherwise you'll kick down his door and whoop his ass. Ochako giggled a bit. I thought you'd want me to stay away from boys. Her father laughed with her. In most cases, yeah, but remember what you said about financial security. Well, ours kinda goes down the drain if he dies, so it's for everyone's sake that you make sure he's still kicking. Also, I won't lie. Boy made a good first impression. Determined, hardworking, heart of gold. And he's rich. Honey, if you wanna lock that down, I won't get in the way. Daddy! It's not like that. Ochiko's face turned bright red. He's just a friend. I'm just saying, sweetheart, there are a lot worse picks. Her father said. Yeah, I know. Ochako said. But enough about that. Me and my classmates are kinda trying to help him out while he's recovering, so we also have to take care of the house maintenance. Sanson just melted some of the stairs, so do you think could repair those and help out with the paperwork? Of course, darling. We'll get right on it. Her father said. Alright. See you soon. Bye. Ochako hung up. The brunette looked up and saw Momo standing in the doorway, staring at her with paper in her arms and a slight smile on her face. Oh, Momo. I didn't see you there. Ochako blushed a bit at not noticing her classmate standing there for presumably a little while. How long were you standing there? Near the beginning of the phone call. I apologize for eavesdropping, but your phone call was not something I'd experienced before. Momo told her. You haven't had a phone call with your dad? Ochako raised her eyebrow, giving her a confused look. No, I have. Plenty of them. Momo told her. But it's not like yours, Uraraka. Can I tell you something? Of course. Never be afraid to speak your mind, Vice Rep. Ochako gave her a kind, reassuring smile. We're friends after all. Momo returned her smile, with the same warmth, albeit a bit shakier. I'm not used to this level of casualness. I was raised in a very proper home and in very proper schools. It wasn't terrible or even all that bad necessarily, it was just very slightly uncomfortable, in a way I never noticed up until now. This casual feeling, it's relaxing. That's why I was caught up in your conversation with your father. It was so different from my own. Oh, well, it's fine then. Ochako excused her. Just try not to lurk next time. I'll keep that in mind, Momo said. Also, if you have free time, do you think you could help me with these papers? Sure, Ochako told her. That's what friends are for. XXXXXXXXX. Alright, everyone. And that's it for today's biology lesson. Mina said, standing in the front of the classroom, to all the children sitting in the chairs. Does anyone have any questions? Sue asked. Kay raised her hand. Yeah, Kay? Mina called on her. You said boobies are there so women can give milk to their babies, right? Kay asked. That's right, Kay. I'm so glad you understand. Mina petted her snakes proudly. But why are they all different sizes? Kay asked curiously. Ms. Yumomo has really big boobies, and Ms. Jiro has almost no boobies. Mina tried her hardest not to laugh, as in was failing horribly, while Sue just rolled her eyes. That's a part of genetics, Sue explained. We were going to go into that tomorrow, but I guess we can give you a preview of it now. Sue then went up to the chalkboard and spent a few minutes drawing an image. On the left side of the board was a woman, and on the right was a man. Both had arrows next to them that pointed to a wheel. Genetics are a big part of what makes you, Sue explained. Genetics come from your mother, and your father, your birth parents that is. Not Izuku. And when you're being created inside of your mother's bellies, those genetics are randomly shuffled around, until they finish creating you. Your hair color, your height, weight, skin color, breast size, eye color, your quirk, and some parts of your personality, are all chosen by genetics. Think of it like a big wheel, and when you spin it, it randomly decides what traits you get. And the genetics you get from your mother and father decide what's on that wheel. So people get lucky, and some people don't, Mina told them. Momo hit the genetic jackpot. Jiro did too, in every place except for her breast size. But don't tell her I said that. She's really sensitive about her itty-bitties. Mina, Sue said while looking at the open doorway. The door. Huh? Mina looked behind her at the doorway, and froze, because she saw Jiro standing there, giving her a very menacing look, with her earlobes raised. Hey Jiro. Mina started sweating nervously, trying to back up, only to stumble into a desk. Why you were just hanging around? Jiro didn't say a word, she just slowly started advancing. Hey Jiro. I was just answering a question, it's not my fault. Mina tried to defend herself. Itty bitties, Jiro repeated with venom gushing from her tone. Mina gulped as the rocker approached her. Kids save me. Some of the kids got up to come to her aid, but Sue raised her hand to stop them. Kids, don't. This is a lesson about watching what you say, and the consequences if you don't. See you traitor. Mina shouted as Jiro descended upon her. It was just a joke. It was just a joke. Ah. And thus it was quickly decided the next lesson would be on how to deal with stab wounds. XXXXXXXXXX. You're doing it, Eri, you're doing it. Ochako chanted, as she watched Eri try to turn off her quirk. Eri breathed in and out rapidly, struggling as she tried to control the wild bull that was her quirk. Ag. Ma. Her horn kept shrinking back into her head, it would sometimes move a centimeter back up, as it resisted Eri's will to try and keep on going, but Eri was more determined than ever. After a few minutes, the strange energy her horn emitted ceased, and a few seconds later, Eri finally managed to get her horn back to its default position. Once this was done, Eri flopped back onto the floor, breathing heavily. Good job, Eri. Ochako applauded her. This is the third time you turned your quirk on and off today. Izuka said you normally can only do it once on a good day. Thank you, Ochako, Eri said between breaths, as she struggled to keep her eyes open. I need to work really hard, to control my quirk, and help people. Ochako cooed, as she picked up Eri and started petting her head, exactly as Izuku instructed. You're such a nice girl, Eri. But it's time for you to rest. You look really tired. Eri pouted and shook her head, and forced herself to sit up. No. I need to control it. Don't overdo it, Eri. It's gonna be a long time until you can fully control your quirk. Ochako told her, picking her up to put her in bed. Eri weakly struggled in Ochako's arm. No. I need to control it. Ochako frowned. Eri, what's going on? Why are you being so stubborn? The horned girl pouted. If I could use my quirk, I could fix Dad. And he'd never have to be like that ever again. Oh. Ochako felt like an idiot. Of course, that's what would be the problem. It was so obvious. It must have been so frustrating, to have the power to fix a problem so important to you, and just not have been able to use it. At the very least she didn't try to fix Izuku in her current state. That likely would have gone very poorly. But now Ochako needed to get this girl to sleep before she made herself sick from exhaustion. And she knew she would need to get some help. XXXXXXXXXXX. Izuku was currently working on papers, in his bed with his two grimapes next to him, when the door opened. What on earth are you doing? Izuku sighed, as he saw Ochako enter the room, with Eri in her arms. Hello, Ochako. You too, Eri. Both Eri and Ochako wore pouts on her face, Eri because she still wanted to continue training, and Ochako because Izuku was working on his break. I am dealing with some papers involving the Q.R.D, Izuku explained. We can talk about that after we talk about why my little unicorn is pouting. Ochako looked hesitant to let this go for now but ultimately relented. She moved towards the bed, plopping Eri right next to Izuku, and standing next to her to make sure she didn't try to just roll off and escape. She has been working very hard on controlling her quirk. She managed to turn it on and off 3 whole times. Izuku gave a forced gasp, although he was a bit surprised. He over-exaggerated it for Eri's sake. 3 whole times. That's amazing, Eri. Eri found herself cuddling into Izuku's side against her will, her own body betraying her. But, the problem is she's very tired but wants to keep going so she can master her quirk faster. Ochako shook her head. Because she wants to heal you the next time you get sick. She's overworking herself, like father like daughter. Oh, Eri. Izuku gave her a gentle smile and brought her into his embrace. Rest is important. Trust me, I tried to keep working and ignoring my body, and I ended up like this. You can't do that, Eri, that's a no-no. But I want to fix you, Eri muttered. I know. You're such a good girl. Such a kind, pure-hearted girl. Izuku told her. But you need to know your limits. I can keep going, Eri whispered, a yawn following soon after. Oh really? Izuku gave her a slightly mischievous smile. Well, if you can stay awake for a whole 2 minutes, then you can keep training. Deal? Deal. Eri's eyes flew open, however, she quickly found she had to fight to keep them that way. You really think you can do it? Izuku asked, getting a nod from her. Even if I hold you real close? Izuku brought the girl up to his chest, holding her right against his chest. And not fair. Eri's eyes were half closed, as she absorbed the warmth of Izuku's touch. It was so soothing that she quickly found that even fighting at her hardest wouldn't be enough. What about if I pet your head, like this? Izuku brushed his hand through her hair. Eri didn't even have the time to protest, as she quickly closed her eyes, and fell into a deep sleep. Izuku and Ochako looked at Eri's adorable sleeping form, before Ochako looked up, back at the paperwork Izuku was doing, and frowned again. The green-haired teen looked up at her and sighed. Look, I know what you're gonna say, Dash. Then why are you doing it? Ochako whispered aggressively. You know you shouldn't be working right now. This is QRD work. This is important work that contains classified information. Izuku's tone was dead serious and told Ochako that he wasn't ashamed in the slightest of what he was doing. I can't hand this over to a bunch of people I just met. And while I trust you and Mom, neither of you know enough about this for you to make decisions this important. Not to mention I would have to send in an advance notice saying that you have permission to make this decision in the first place, and that would take far too much time. Well, can't you just put it on hold until you recover? Ochako asked him. How would you feel if you had to stay 3 more weeks in a bunker, unable to see the outside or even your family because the person responsible for releasing you was being an idiot? Izuku told her. It's important work. And I can't put it to the side unless I absolutely have to. Ochako didn't look convinced. Izuku sighed. Okay, it's the only real work I'm doing. And it's reduced. I'm only really doing this for an hour a day. Uraraka continued to give him a look, judging his words for a minute before relaxing and giving a long sigh. Well, don't overdo it. I'll be watching you now. So don't think you can get away with overdoing it. I won't. Izuku looked down at Eri, sleeping at his side. I'll try my best, for her. For all of them. XXXXXXXXXXXX. It was late at night, and most of Class 1A was asleep. All except for Shoto, who had done the least that day, and as such was assigned to finish up some of the leftover paperwork that night. This is extremely tedious. Todoroki had never felt so bored in his life. His father had always been particularly upset after he did the stack of paperwork he had to do as a high-ranking hero, and for once Shoto understood something about his father. Knock. Knock. Shoto looked up, wondering who could be knocking at this time of night. Come in. The door opened, and in came Kiba. Hi. Hello. What are you doing up? Shoto asked her. I wanted to ask you something. How much work is it to clean up the house when we break something? A lot, Shoto answered bluntly. It takes about half an hour to deal with even the smallest of things. It's ridiculous. How long does it take for the bigger stuff or multiple things? Kiba almost looked like she was afraid of the answer. I'd imagine hours. Not including the phone calls. Shoto told her. It's a lot of work. Shoto guessed the girl must have broken a lot of things because she looked extremely guilty. Like, he'd never seen a child look this guilt-ridden before, not that he's seen a lot of children, mind you. After taking a few minutes to compose herself, Kiba looked back up at him and asked, Can I see how much stuff got broken before Daddy got sick? Shoto gave that some thought. She was probably just being thoughtful and wanted to see how much damage she caused. Maybe this would help her be more mindful in the future. Sure. Why not? What's the worst that can happen?